Hello, this is Kari Fell. Welcome to my studio.
Hi, today I'm on my back deck. My deck is in shade, so I can work out here because it is sweltering. We're under a heat warning. I'm actually just dripping. I'm not complaining. I've waited a long time for summer days, so I'm enjoying this very much. I have my rigid heddle clamped here on the table, and I'm just warping up a new project. It requires me to walk from one end of the table to the other. This is another experiment. I'm using 6/2 mercerized cotton in a 12.5 dent reed. Wasn't sure whether to choose 12.5 or 15. Went with 12.5. Who knows? Maybe I'll have to switch it all over. We'll see. So I've warped up most of the width. It's a little narrower. I didn't use the full 10 inches this time. This is an experiment to see if this even works. So now I'm going to sit in a nice comfy chair here on the deck and wind on and thread this thing. I'm using this yarn as a weft, and then I'm going to throw the occasional shot of this. So this is a Sari silk ribbon. And the point of this weaving project is to showcase this yarn. So I didn't want to use this too heavily because it would sort of take over. I want it to be a special pop of color every once in a while. So this is recycled saris that have been made into a ribbon. So this is a silk, and it's, it's fairly wide. So it looks wonderful on the skein. Let's see how it looks when I weave it into my project. Okay, loom's all warped up and I've got it started. This is a pickup stick technique, where the silk skips over the surface every once in a while. So, color changes regularly. It's going to be very interesting once it's wet finished, I think. I'm now editing the video and realize I haven't shown you how the pickup stick relates to the project. So I'm going to show you on the warp that I have on the loom right now. So I started with putting the heddle in the down position. So I now have half the threads up, and I insert my pickup stick on the side, and I went under the first 4, and then I went just over 3, under 3, over 3, under 3, all the way to the other side. I had 5 left at the end. It's not noticeable in the project. And then I pushed the pickup stick to the back of the loom. So what this does now is it gives me a third shed. The regular down shed, where half are down and half are up. The up heddle, where it's reversed with half the threads up and half the threads down. And then I have the down pickup stick shed, where I pull on the down heddle, I pull the pickup stick forward and turn it vertically up against the heddle, and now I have these gaps. So when I pass the ribbon through it skips over a number of threads where these gaps are. So what I'm doing is I'm doing 9 passes of plain weave and then 1 shot of this Sari silk ribbon. And because there's a big space between each pick of the silk, I don't just want to have it carry it up the side and leave a big loop. So I'm catching it along the side with the cotton. So I make sure I go around the silk and catch it. I'm hesitating because I have to think about up and down now. That side's easy. Up, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nine. And now the Sari silk with the pickup stick. So I sliding the pickup stick forward right up against the heddle. And then putting the shuttle with the silk through. Making sure I have a neat edge. With the rigid heddle, for some reason, being picky on the edges is the only way to go. Whereas on the floor loom, I say, don't touch your edges. And now the cotton, making sure I go on the correct side. It took me a few inches to figure out how the 2 shuttles were going to interact and cross with each other on the selvage edges. Now we are... Okay, so I have to really think because I'm used to having heddle down from the right and heddle up from the left. But every time I throw a shot of the silk, it changes the order. So I have to stop and think about it each time. And then I tuck it under and catch the silk on the edge differently on each side. So this is kind of slow going. And it feels stiff and quite unappealing at the moment. I know that will change once I take it off the loom and let it flop. I'm hoping it has a nice hand. You can see I wound my shuttle quite badly. I wound my bobbin badly. And some of it slipped off the end. So that's been another added challenge. It's worth it to slow it down when you're winding bobbins. And make sure you do it right. Okay, so this goes down, pickup stick comes forward and the silk is passed through. Looks like we're getting a color change. Pickup stick to the back. And this is an up shed. Alright, so I will continue this way to the end, and then we'll take a look at it once it's off the loom. So I've pulled the weaving off the loom. Here it is on the floor, laid out. And the front and the back are very different. This is the side I was looking at when I was weaving, and it has the nice floats. These have some gaps, but not quite the floats before. So, and you can see that it's loosened up quite a bit. It's got a better feel, that's for sure. It's a bit web-like. I mean, it's got good, you know, a 50-50 weave. Those are little squares showing through the gaps, it's not compressed, so that's good. And that should tighten up a bit as I wet finish it. That I had made a mistake. So whereas I had been putting in the pickup stick to create these floats, on this pass I forgot to pull the pickup stick forward. So we have one line of plain weave with the Sari silk where it doesn't skip over the ground. So that's there to remind me that I make mistakes, and it is not going to be a perfect piece no matter how much I try. So I'm going to wet finish this now. I hem stitched the ends. I'm going to wet finish and then trim them. I think we'll just leave it a short fringe on this item, and then we'll see how it looks. I have the scarf in the sink of sudsy water. I did not soak it. I just put it in and started moving it around, and look at the color of the water. So something is bleeding in here. Now there's the warp is a navy cotton. It could be the navy making the water blue, and it's an interesting smell. A smell unlike anything I've washed before. So that's got to be the silk. But yeah, this color bleeding is interesting. So I'm going to take it out right away and rinse it many times in cold water and see what happens. So here's the finished scarf. I have to admit that once I finished it, I folded it up, put it on the shelf, kind of gave it or myself a timeout. I don't know which. I just pulled it out to do this final critique before I edit the video, and it's not as bad as I had thought at the time. It has its redeeming qualities. I think what was I was finding not so appealing was the color changes. How the color just kind of changes, you know, every 4 or 5 passes in big blocks, and we don't see the wonderful color mixing that we see in the skein of the Sari silk. The skein is luscious, and there's an interesting color mix as we see it all wound together. And this isn't what we see on the scarf at all. If I didn't have the expectations after seeing the skein, I wouldn't have the preconceived notions, and this would be a much more satisfying piece. So after wet finishing, it does indeed have a nice drape and a little shine as the silk, catches the light. It's not heavy, even though it has these what looks like heavy bands. The overall scarf is nice and light. It kind of makes a bold statement, I think. I think it was a very successful experiment. Would I do this again? Probably not. Not with the Sari silk. I think I'm still on my quest to see how to make the Sari silk look its best in a woven piece. But I think that this technique would work wonderfully in a yarn that is more variegated, maybe one that changes color more often or has more color in each section. I also think it would work really well in a yarn that maybe isn't such a wide ribbon, that is maybe a little narrower and maybe floofier. So I do have some fancy yarns that I'd still like to try this technique on. I have some nice hand spun that is silk and merino or something like that. So I think I'll give this technique another try with some of the other yarns and maybe a finer ground tabby cloth as well. I don't know. So lots of potential here.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to support my work, check out my Patreon. Thank you for watching.